And here are the dynamic duo here, Russ and Cathy. And Russ is barely staying awake as he's just returned from the shift work of doing the Women's World Championships, and we'll tap into that as we will also tap into the men's. Look ahead to the men's World Championship. So let's start it off by looking back at Rachel Homan's win. And Cathy, let's start with you. How impressive is this team?
I I don't. I went to journalism school, so I know a lot of words, and I don't have one to describe Rachel Homan. If anybody has not seen what she did in the second end against Scotland, that is a mark of a beast in our sport. I don't know that we've ever seen somebody as focused, as dominant. I'm sure Scotland thought they were going to force her to one. She calls the run back double, makes it without a blink of an eye. Dominance, dominance. Selfishly, I wish the Olympics were tomorrow and she was going, because just absolutely on fire. It was wonderful as a Canadian to watch.
Russ, you were there, or you weren't there, but you were following every rock that was thrown by that team. What impressed you about them?
Well, I went through journalism too. I just didn't graduate. Uh, but Cathy hit the nail on the head. I was lucky enough to run into Glenn on the airport on the way home. So he's here coaching Schwaller in Moose Jaw. So I had him over for dinner last night. And I said to Glenn, in that same scenario that Cathy just brought up, do you hit for one or do you try that shot that Rachel took on? Because if Rachel misses that gap,
Oh,
potential steal of one for sure, probably two
I agree, Rusty.
in the first end when they don't even know the ice. And he said, I'm hitting for one all day. And he's a 4-time world champion. So they once in a while, Rachel just has this out of body experience that it's like she can see it. She doesn't make them all, right? But really impressive. And I have no words either.
I mean, you have to have like huge amount of confidence to even think about playing that shot, don't you, Cathy?
You do, but it to me it speaks to the team. We always talk about Rachel Homan, but part of that confidence comes from the fact that Tracy Fleury can call a brilliant line, and she knows that Tracy's not going to make very many mistakes. And with Emma and Sarah, if she's a little wide, they're going to make it go. If she's a little tight, they're going to hold it back. And so it speaks volumes to just her confidence in herself, but also in the abilities of her teammates. And that's pretty scary when you've got all four cylinders firing together.
Russ, you've had a team that has been that good and that dominant. How do you maintain that now going forward? Obviously, they've got the Olympic trials not that far away, but is that what sort of is the lure for Team Holman right now?
Yeah, I think so. And then, of course, what happens with that moniker, with that the way they're playing is now you have a target in your back, and people, other countries or other whoever she's playing, seem to they either rise to that moment and play out of body experience themselves. Because let's say you're Hasselberg. Hasselberg's been an equal with Holman, for instance, or before Holman got hot, Hasselberg would have been the favorite. So Hasselberg goes into a game against Canada going, I got nothing to lose. So it's a different. So sometimes those teams just play way better than maybe they normally do, and Holman's in for a tough game. Once in a while, teams go, "Oh my goodness, I'm playing Canada, can't beat them." But in the majority of the teams that show up at like Cathy says, the Olympics, they'll be gunning for Holman if Holman gets there, and that will not be a walk in the park, even if Holman's our representative.
And
I mean,
it's crazy to say, Bob, but I feel like for Rachel Homan now, she has to work even harder to find another edge, because you know that every one of those coaches on the bench and every one of those teams is looking at what she did. They had cameras out there, they're filming. So they are going to try to take a page out of her playbook. So what does Rachel come up with next year to give her that added advantage? It's easier to get to the top than it is to stay there.
yeah, I think swagger is definitely worth something in any kind of competition, and it's pretty good to have. Also, pretty good. I got to admit the celebration that Team Holman had, judging by the Instagram and social media, was pretty darn good. I'd say they were the gold medal winners of that as well. Let's look ahead now. We've got the world coming to Moose Jaw. Something I never thought I would say, but the world is coming to Moose Jaw. And actually, we were there for a Scotties a number of years ago. They did a tremendous job. So I will take that back. But we do have an interesting field. I mean, we've got Team Jacobs representing Canada. That's the first time since 2021 that Guju is not representing Canada, which is kind of an interesting fact to think about. Set up the field for me, Russ. Like who do you see in that field that stands out?
Well, Bruce Mount, who couldn't even win his country, would be ranked number would be ranked number one, which is kind of an interesting topic too. Brad Jacobs is playing great, and my worry with them is their intensity, which I lived by. That's what when I played my best, I was intense, but it's hard to keep that intensity for an entire season. You know, they've got all the events, the Brier, they got to be whipped from that. Gallant's been all over the world with mixed doubles, tired. I think the advantage for them is that they're the home country. It's in Moose Jaw, and that might push them through to the end because they're going to be tired. Schwaller looks really good. I really like Germany. I think they're the dark horse. Nobody's talking about Germany, and they've had a wonderful year. And as I talked to Cathy earlier in the day, where's Adine?
Yeah.
Where's Retornaz? We can't count those two out, even though they've had subpar years, Kath.
Yep. No, I agree, Bob. I think that the strongest team in the world this year by a landslide has been Bruce Mount. He's been unbelievable, and Jacobs is just Jacobs. He's a very special player, and the other three in front of him are really good, but they feed off Brad. That's why they brought Brad on the team. And there's not going to be any lack of intensity. He knows how special that Maple Leaf is and how fleeting it can be. And so they will play great, but it's the question marks this year that are more the story for me. Retornaz was the best team in the world, and I think he got shell-shocked after having a great season, winning 3 slams. But then he didn't win the Euros and he didn't win the Worlds. He wasn't in the final of the Worlds. And in the beginning of the year, Amos Mosander, the best sweeper in the world, the largest man in the world that brushes in our sport, was moved into the house. And so you took that out of the lineup and it took out some of the confidence. We'll see what Ryan Fry, who coaches them, fields as a lineup when we get to Moose Jaw. But they've been a question mark. Nicholas Sedin did not show well last weekend at all, has had personally maybe one of his worst years. But when you've won a whole bunch of world titles and Olympics, can you count him out? I don't think so.
Not a chance.
No. Okay, Cathy, I know you wanted to talk about this, but somewhere probably back in Scotland, White is sitting on his couch watching the World Championships, even though he is the winner of the Scottish Championship, not once, but the last 2 years, and both times Bruce Mallett has gone on to represent. First of all, is this fair? And second of all, is this a start of something?
No and yes. No, I don't think it's fair, particularly last year. Ross White was the better team all last year. Bruce Mallett struggled last year. He played a strategy that didn't work from last year. It sure does this year. But Ross White was so good at the beginning of this year when they did the slam and they did a draft. No one wanted to pick Ross White. He was the last one because no one wanted to play him. This year, absolutely, Bruce has been the better player. But if your philosophy is that the big games really matter, Ross White's won a lot of really big games. The challenge Scotland faces is that Bruce Mallett's not an old man. And so Ross White's a couple of years younger. If you never give him an opportunity to represent your country, when will he and will he stop playing? I feel really bad for that team because they are so very good and keep being denied.
Russ, is this kind of something you see other countries might do? Like, I mean, I know there are some countries where it's sort of fairly obvious there's one strong team that they send, some of the ones with smaller curling communities, but is this fair do you think you still should have to earn it rather than get picked for it?
It's a wonderful argument. 3 teams at the World Women's did it, and the most notable was Pets. And Arizona and Pets, they actually came 3rd in the country. They didn't even make the final. But the argument is, you're the Swiss Curling Association. How do you not send Terranzoni? Like, they've won the Worlds 4 times. Pets has won it 5 times. And keep in mind, there's a 2-year running total to try to get your team, those top 7 teams, get automatically to the Olympics. Otherwise, you have to go to a second chance, sudden death situation in Canada. I don't disagree with some of that ideas. Now, at the same time, I'm old school. And why are you having a Scottish championship if you're not sending the guy that wins it? So I can sit and argue with myself on this one because, but it comes down to depth. Like if Canada, for instance, Canada does it. Canada says, well, good luck, Jacobs. You won this year, but we're going to send Gushue because he's been going
Yes.
they would have burnt the arena down, right? So it's a tough one. It really is, and I can see the weaker countries, like maybe if you're USA, I'm going to pick on them. They were on the bubble going into the World Women's point wise, so sending your top team, which that top team won the country, just to be fair, but sending your top team would make a ton of sense because otherwise you're not in the Olympics, and it's hard to win the Olympics if your country's not in the Olympics.
Or do what Sweden does, which says it's cumulative number of points. So we recognize that teams travel on the world. So if they're in the slams, they get so many points. So Hasselborg did not play in the Swedish championship because she already had more points than Vrano. So she knew that she was going. That's fair if you have a system. But when you say we're having a championship, it is. It's like saying to Jacob, sorry, Gushue's been there more often than you. He goes. What's the incentive to work really hard?
That's what can go wrong, isn't it, Cathy?
Yeah.
I know of a couple of women's teams from Sweden that quit curling that were virtually almost as good as Hasselborg, and you got to be worried about your depth with some of these decisions.
Definitely. I have a chat with Mark Kennedy coming up later in this show, and I asked him the point blank question: is it tougher to win the Worlds now than the Brier or the Scotties? And he said, without a doubt, absolutely, without a doubt. And I don't know if that says something about our national championships or it says something about the rest of the world. Cathy, what do you think?
It says a lot about the rest of the world. With the slams, the world is over here all the time. We used to see a couple of teams that would tour. Now all of these teams are over, and they have programs in their country because they have fewer curlers where they're in the same place. Most of our teams are not. They train together all the time. They throw the same. And so they have continued to get better. And I feel like our teams are so tired by the time they get to a world championship that sometimes that works against them. I think our Brier field, you look at those top three teams in particular, Gushue, Dunstone, Jacobs, you play that 3 weekends in a row, you could get 3 different champions and all would show so well at the Worlds. We still have a lot of depth. They use the top teams and get more reps. And so the world is a very tough place. This World's be tough for Jacobs for sure.
Russ, what are your thoughts?
Nicholas Edin's, I'm going to guess, is ranked, maybe not on the betting line, but if you look at the points total, he's probably, I'm going to say 7th in this field. And he wins the world championship 80% of the time he shows up. So how tough's the field, right? It's just the rest of the world's caught up, in some cases past us. I'll give you a great example. In 2006, we win the gold medal with Brad Gushue, Mark Nichols. They are by far way better players, ice readers, strategists than they were when I played with them back then. Yet Brad Gushue's won 1 world championship in all that period of time. 1. And why? We watch him. He's good. They're really good. They're even better under pressure. But you come up against a Dean or whoever it is in the final, it's just the way it is. The other slight advantage that the rest of the world has over us is that Dean knows he's going to the Olympics. He knows he is next year's Worlds. Brad Gushue doesn't.
No.
This is Jacob's 2nd try, I believe, in his life. And he lost to a Dean in the final. So he's never won a Worlds. So when he gets to the final, Jacobs, let's say a Dean or Mowat, the Mowat or a Dean have a slight advantage.
Well, and to your point, Rusty, when you think about Joe Retornes, so we talked about it's not been a great year. They've been making changes, but all these countries have to worry about qualifying with points in the Worlds to get to the Olympics. They're in it, and they know that they're the team in it. So maybe what we've seen from a Retornes team is just a team that's moving things around and trying to figure out some magic mix. Our teams can't afford to do that.
Same. Constantini did the same thing. They had a poor showing here, but rest they'll be ready to go for the Olympics.
They can sort of handpick their schedule a little easier that way too, right? You don't have to play every single weekend and travel across here, there, or wherever.
100%. Work on certain things. Maybe they're working on more rotation, or maybe they're working and get 4 deliveries lined up. And certainly the Italian 2 teams, they've got it circled for next year, not this year.
All right. Well, before we go, let's give me your thoughts on who's going to come through and step on the top step when they wrap it all up in Moose Jaw. Kathy?
Oh boy, I want to say Jacobs, but I feel that with this year, I got to say Mount.
Okay. Russ?
I've got it down to 7 teams. Uh, I'd like to say the same thing. Brad can win. I think he can beat Mowat in the final. Don't count out a Dean. Germany's the dark horse. And with that Howard guy coaching the Swiss, who knows?
Russ, he said the top of the podium. How big is that podium?
It's very big. It's very big. It's flat. It's flat out here, Cathy. You can make it as big as you want.
Well, we'll be watching and with eagle eyes to see what happens. And good luck to Team Canada, to all the teams out there. We like to see some good competition. And congratulations to Rachel Homan and you two. This is our last episode for the season, so thank you very much for your conversations. We've enjoyed it, and judging by the numbers of viewers, a lot of people have enjoyed it. So thanks.